I'd like to call this meeting to order. First order of business, Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Any changes, additions, or removal to the agenda? No, sir. Approved minutes from previous meeting.
Make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
I'll second that from May 20th, 2025.
Yeah. All in favor?
Aye.
Comments from citizens? I see none. Allocation and review, possibly approve. There's nothing there, right?
Nope.
Extra items.
It's the sewer report.
Department head reports. They're still cleaning the pit up from the flood.
Yeah. Yeah. Ongoing.
Yeah, I put it at the end of the
Ongoing.
minutes.
I have one extra there for you. I did make mention of adding the previous year's month to the wastewater.
I will do that.
That would be great.
I thought he did that one more.
I think he did it previously.
I think he did it one month and I liked it so
Yeah.
much. I said you should keep doing that.
Anybody have anything on the department head reports? Looks good. Age receivables.
So the biannual bills are going out shortly. That will include disconnection notices. That usually seems to move the needle a little bit on some of the ones that we are behind on. I will also, for July meeting, as needed, that will come to the board, and I think we talked about putting liens on properties that hadn't paid. So I'll have a list of things to do for the board too.
Yeah, there hasn't been obviously much movement since the 20th.
No.
Okay. Trustees to consider action on the proposed charter for village and town merger.
You have we had our joint meeting in May, both boards, and after that, we provided the updated changes that were made, as well as the red line version of the charter. You had that provided the clean version of the charter, which, if we have any changes tonight, we can continue to do that. Otherwise, it would require a vote to put the charter forward to the voters to approve the merger. What happened, so the select board approved this last night, pending a decision tonight. The charter goes forward. There is 3 informational meetings that align, legally with the statute, number of days warned, et cetera, public comment notices, et cetera, that align for a vote in mid-August of the merger. If this is, pushed forward tonight.
I served on that committee. Go ahead.
Yeah, I thought it looked good.
Yeah, I think we've answered
Yeah, a
a lot
couple
of
changes
questions.
I was happy with it, and I figured probably the lawyers knew more than I did, so.
That's what I was thinking. I figured I'd do the thing.
Yeah, we discussed this briefly last night. I was on the committee. I think it looks good. I'm happy to.
So we're doing a motion to,
Yes.
I'll make that motion to move forward really for the,
Move forward with public hearings. I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Review of updated proposal of rental registry.
So you have the is in your packet. Terry Carter has been working on the rental registry, providing some updated notes, et cetera, to it. This is the one that was provided to the board and to the select board last night. Terry, you sent one out today
With the changes.
with the changes, but this does not reflect that. We've been following the practice from the previous meeting. We provided with the one that the select board was originally provided with. So at this point, I will, it's okay with the chair, I'll defer to Terry. to kind of-
Well, do I need the mic or does it just pick me up from here?
It gets you a little bit, but it's better if you wouldn't mind.
You can sit right
Take that mic on the road.
there.
Okay, so changes that they made last night, everywhere that it says that rentals will comply with State of Vermont Division of Fire Safety and NFPA 101, those are going to be together. Whenever it says, what they have to comply with, those two things will be together. And it will say the currently adopted State of Vermont Division of Fire Safety regulations. So that's one change they made. Another change they made is on section 4C4, that property owner shall designate and provide the name and contact person at the end within a 30-minute drive instead of a 15-minute drive. That change was made. I was kind of hoping the updated one would be on the table. I'm gonna get the one on the table because the one I have is even older. I'll put it up front.
Terry, do you want me to put the one that you sent this morning? I could.
Up there, that was great. Yeah, let's do
Do
that.
you want to just make me, I'm gonna log on and you just want to make me a co-host?
Yeah, you got it.
Okay, hold on a
Thank
second.
you.
Let me just figure this
That
out.
would be helpful, so I don't forget it.
Just give me a second here.
That's just like teaching, we got
Perfect.
extra media.
Okay, so, this.
I was a really smart, but I don't think these things move around the right. Yeah, they can get a solution.
Move Alicia, look, you moved Alicia. You made her move her hand.
Well, Ms. Carter is getting this pulled up with the help of Brendan. Last night, at our last meeting on the 20th, we discussed having two separate documents for long-term and short-term.
Yes.
The select board was not in favor of that at their meeting, and they wanted to see long-term incorporated into this short-term document.
I don't think all of the select board felt that way. It seemed like Noah and his dad felt that way. And George had, but it didn't seem like everybody
I won't
felt that way.
I wanted the two separate ones. It seemed like Noah, Mr. Sanderson, and I believe, I don't want to speak for Mr. Bates, but it seems like there was more people that were in favor of having that.
I think the only problem with that is the public, if you put them both together and they like one and not the other, the whole thing's gonna fail. At the public hearing, if you keep them separate, then you can see because our next step is to go to the public. I know it's not ready yet, but our next step would be to go to the public. And then the whole thing doesn't bomb because you haven't separated them. I talked through email today, I sent our latest one to Martha and Jason over at Regional, and they suggested to keep them separate too, because they're not the same thing. Okay, so changes that were made. Nothing was changed on this page.
Well, that's better.
Yeah, I can read that.
I was like,
Yeah, that's nice. I gotta figure out how to do that.
you said section 4, number C.
Yeah,
letters-
4C,
Letter C.
It's, ac-
number 4.
The last
it's
one.
actually on the next page.
Okay. She's right
It's
there.
on page 3.
She's almost there though, right?
Yeah.
Just a little farther down.
Becomes a 30-minute drive instead of a 15-minute drive is where we're.
Yeah.
Oh, you are, it's on the third page, you're right.
Yeah.
Ben had wanted it to be 15 minutes, but everybody that's in the business said that's not even feasible. So it should be 30. It used to say within Windsor County, but
Did you updated that, Terry?
I
Yeah,
have that
I
copy
did-
that she
I
emailed.
did
that says
update
15
it. I
minutes.
sent that today. Oh, it's not updated on here.
No.
It's one I sent you today. That's okay, I kind of remember them if you have the one from last night here.
Well, no, this is the one that she's.
There weren't a whole lot of changes.
I say something for a second about that?
Yes.
We wanted a half hour. I wanted a half hour because it's just not, it's 15 minutes is just not enough time. But as it reads, it says to live a half hour away. It doesn't say respond within a half hour. So, I mean, and there's a difference there.
Yeah.
There's a difference there. So for somebody that lives a half hour away, if they respond in 2 hours, there's no, I mean, I just read that again last night, and I just wanted to bring that point up, that it's, you're asking them to be a half hour away to live a half hour, not to respond in a half hour.
It says a 15-minute drive.
Yeah, Ben said that the problem, that's why he wanted a 15-minute drive, because he said that they're stuck there waiting for the homeowner, and what if there's a fire and
Well, I think kind of what he was getting at is that if it's you get there and it's just a faulty alarm, like obviously if there's a fire or there's a major life safety issue, the fire department or somebody's gonna say it, but if it's a faulty alarm or something, they need to be able to say, this is your problem now and we're leaving. You know, the scene's fine, but you have to get this fixed, rather than the fire department sitting there for 2 hours waiting for somebody to get there. That's kind of what I think.
And not to get into it last night, because I don't mind getting into this meeting, they don't last as long. So to go back to that half hour, and what Ben's on, as long as he gets a phone call within a half hour, it's up to either the property management, the rental company, or the homeowner to, if it takes them an hour, I mean, it's on them anyway after that half hour.
so you want to switch to a,
Well, I would just say that, something, everybody has a life, and everybody, if they're fishing with their grandkids,
Okay, so 30 minutes.
an hour away,
Hasn't been.
as long as they make that phone call, Ben should be able to leave.
Yeah.
Or the
Yeah.
fire department should be able to leave.
that makes sense.
Go ahead.
How do you guys feel about that?
I was just gonna say, I agree, I think response rate within a half hour makes way more sense than getting there within a half an hour. Because it could be a simple phone call, and they could say, it's up to you now, like you said, but it's a response rate rather than a drive time.
I like that.
I know they, most of them have that responsibility to respond, but like I said, there's, I can tell you, after 38 years, I'm not sitting next to my phone waiting for something to happen.
Yeah.
I got stuff to do.
Yeah.
I wanna do things. And to think that somebody has that time to sit there 24/7 waiting for a call to come in so they can respond, it's just not gonna happen. So I'm just,
I mean, they can easily make a phone call.
once you make that phone call,
Yeah.
it's your problem. And then Ben should make, and his crew should do
And I
it.
think that's, if you're able to
Respond.
have the conversation or a phone call, that's.
So I'm changing it within a 30-minute response time?
Yeah.
Okay.
Agree with that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
great
There's
with
really a lot of other changes. The change I made in here, because you guys, this is the first time you've seen this, is in section 4 rental registration number, where is it? Number 7. Logan suggested this at the end to explain about the town's immunity in case of a disastrous fire and loss of property and people and everything. That this dates back to sovereign immunity. If it exceeds the town's insurance, the limit takes precedence. That was Chris Callahan's suggestion, and I didn't really understand I needed to add all of that, but Logan pointed that out, so I did add that. And every place it says the state of Vermont Division of Fire Safety, it's going to say like currently adopted. And I did add that in the one that I sent you guys. I'll do a find on it when I get home, make sure they're all there. We had a lot of debate last night about the sewer thing and the water thing in D, number 1. But, pointing out that this is for greater than 8 occupants. And it gives the town, makes it enforceable by the town sewer allocation. Chris Callahan told me is something that's enforceable by the town.
Yeah,
Which-
we are the
which
wastewater
one?
commissioners.
Which we say is 2 per bedroom.
And last night, people were
Right.
disputing that and saying, not saying that it wasn't two per bedroom, but I've heard them say that in the planning office when I met with Rose.
That's
It was
what
two per
the
bedroom.
water sewer rates are based on,
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I do believe. So,
And then there was a lot of debate last night on D2, because it's by Mr. Alden and by people on the board, because it says at the end, that spaces of over 8 occupants must comply with, you know, it's gonna say also the state of Vermont Division of Fire Safety, which includes additional fire safety measures like a manual activated fire alarm, yearly inspections, and specific door requirements. A lot of people are like, that's too much, yearly inspections and all that stuff, but it says like, so it just gives the people that run the registry some things, some tools to use. If they have repeat offenders that are just stacking people in there like sardines. Also, yesterday, it was a general consensus that it would start on July of every year and get renewed on July 1st of each year. And that would also give us a whole lot more time this year to get it up and running. So, and plus I didn't change September, I changed it to July. I think I got most of them. And then in section 5, where it says fees, that would be changed from July 1st to June 30th. There's 30 days, that's September, April, June, and November. Do you think there were any other changes? Justin, do you remember any others, or Scott?
No, there weren't many changes. We did end up saying at the end of the meeting that we wanted to meet with a software representative to see how that portion of it will work, and to understand what that means in terms of hiring up an additional person to monitor it, taking in the permit fees, processing it all.
I would like to call them before that meeting and just to see the chicken and the egg thing. What comes first, the ordinance or the company? You know, I want to call each of them and see if I can figure it out that. And I asked Noah to invite one from each of those companies we talked about last night, the Gov one and the
WS and
Descartes and Granicus, those three, to be at that. The select board decided they would meet halfway through the month on June 16th. It's a Monday in the middle of the month. And further discuss this and hopefully have those representatives from those three companies here.
do we think it would be wise, so the select board decided to meet on the 16th. Do we think that would be wise to make that a joint meeting?
I was thinking that too.
Oh, that's important.
Yeah, just for transparency, merger, and just making sure, you know, this is one of those things that encompasses both the village and the town. And it's kind of, because it says town and village of Ludlow, it's kind of a joint working document, which makes things a little bit tricky, but fortunately enough, we have two boards that are very cohesive when they work together. So I will make that, it's the 16th at 6 o'clock. I will make that a joint meeting, and I'll warn it as such.
Ms. Carter, one question I have that I didn't ask yesterday is Section D, pretty much those following 1, 2, am I looking at the right ones? 1, 2, E, F, G, H? No, D, 1, 2.
Oh,
And
yeah, I
then-
took out F.
Okay,
Yeah, somebody took out F, but I took it out. The one I said today.
because those are duplicates, right?
It's a duplicate. They
Okay.
basically say the same thing. One says using the dwelling and the other one says renting the dwelling, but they say exactly the same thing.
And we also spoke about self-certification is only allowed for the first year,
Yeah, and I did make that change.
and then inspections by fire marshal or local certified fire personnel shall occur within a 1 to 5 year period.
No, but I thought last night you guys agreed on certification to be for the first 2 years.
Yes,
That's how you asked me to change it.
to coincide with if we do a 2-year self-certification term, it'll allow us enough time to get our fire marshal, local certified personnel in there to inspect the property.
But they would still have to pay each year because we need the money to pay for the people that run the program.
Yes, and then the inspection would be, this is per my understanding, the inspection would be a one-time thing, and then the fire marshal or the appointee would be able to enter the property based on complaints or permitting requirements. Is that correct?
And then last night when people were talking about liability or spot inspections, the minute you rent for only 1 day in a year, you're considered a public building. So I didn't think about that last night, but I remember Chris Callahan talking about that.
And one thing I think is important with this document, and I think Brendan had a great idea, is doing a joint meeting, because we as a town should understand this document and all be behind it when we submit it to the voters and the constituents. So we have a unified understanding of it.
Could we compromise and have the short-term rental document and then the long-term rental document and then have a public hearing for like, whatever, 15 minutes for one and then 15 minutes for another? So if one bombs and the other doesn't, we can still have a rental registry? Is that possible?
You could, I
Or
think that's gonna be a discussion for that joint meeting, because the
Yeah,
fact that
I'm just
this is.
suggesting that.
Yeah, so, and that's gonna be a decision that the two boards will have to make.
Yeah.
Just because it gets, again, having the joint meeting with this being a town and village, they're gonna have to make that determination, and, I mean, it could be split, we'll deal with that if it comes, but,
Last time it was a tie.
yeah, I think we're past that point of,
Yeah.
it's last time it was on whether we were going to do it. This would be if we are going to split, the short term, the long term, or you're going to have it together as one ordinance. That would be a decision for the boards at that point.
I would make one comment on the state does have a lot more regulations on long-term actually, which if there's a complaint, the health officer goes but they do have a lot more regulations already on long-term, and it's really two different beasts, so I don't know how you're gonna merge it, but that's my opinion.
Yeah, after the select board
We
meeting,
have
I
that
tried to
too.
merge it. It was really hard because they're not the same.
We had this discussion yesterday because how it was left at our May 20th meeting was, yes, we would like two separate documents in the village trustees. Mr. Schmidt, who's more familiar with these regulations due to his business than I am, stated that the long-term and the short-term are no different in terms of regulations, which is why we should keep a single document. I'm unsure because I don't know the ins and outs of the NFPA codes. But my initial recommendation was to have two separate documents. If that's not feasible or if that's not cogent with the rest of the select board and the trustees at our next meeting, we can talk about it then.
Well, my opinion on it is based on data too, because when we did that village survey, we sent it to every single person on the checklist that lives in the village. And long-term, regulating short-term rentals was way over 50% that people wanted that to happen, and long-term rentals, nobody wanted that to happen. That's why I think it's gonna bomb if we put them together.
Can I ask you a question, Ms. Carter? You've been putting a good amount of time on this, and you've spoken to many towns and compiled all of these documents from different villages and towns.
Mm-hmm.
Has one of them done a combined long-term, short-term rental document?
The only town in Vermont, last time I told you St. Albans, but today I looked it up again, and it's the only town in Vermont, is South Burlington.
And that's
they
a
have
unique case because it's a college town, would be my understanding of it. There's a lot of long-term rentals there.
Spill off.
But it did say also online that Essex is in Burlington are considering them.
Long-term,
Considering a long-term.
I agree. I think a long-term is important. I just don't know if
I'm
it
just saying, let's
needs
keep
to
it
be
separate so
together.
it doesn't bomb. Both of them don't bomb.
We can discuss it, I guess, in the
That'll be
Yeah.
a
meeting.
discussion for next week.
I'll make up a long-term one so you have the two separate documents. So if you decide to do that, they'll be ready to go.
That's great.
Any other comments on that?
You have that for the June meeting. You have that for the June 16th meeting.
Yeah.
I don't have anything else.
Okay. Review proposed vendor food truck ordinance.
Here again.
Me too. You can can tell I'm bored in my retirement here. Except for taking care of Lily, that's not boring. She's so fun. Okay, so last time you guys came here, we made some changes, and this is the newest edition. Last night, they really didn't debate this much, probably because we spent over an hour on the other thing.
I just had a couple questions.
Yeah.
On the permit limitations, you have a list here with other towns that have their fees. And I'm not saying we're wrong, but it looks like we're a little higher than they are. Is that correct?
But the reason why I think, Bob, is because if you look at the bottom part, the licenses required,
Yeah, I didn't know about the licenses.
they have to go through the planning office. They have to go through the DRB, and so
So-
they've already gone, they already have to go through a permitting
Yeah.
process, which we don't require.
Okay. That was one question. And the other one, for number 8, prohibited locations.
That
No food
should
truck
just-
shall
yeah,
be
that
in
no
a
should be
commercially zoned.
struck. They found that last night. That's a typo. You gotta cross out that no.
Yeah,
Okay.
food truck shall be in only commercially zoned
Okay.
areas.
Yeah.
Last night's discussion, because I brought up the fact that they can go and get this application without even considering, like, Sunoco should have gotten a change of use, because their permit does not say they can have a food truck there. It only says they can have a gas station and a service market. And of course, nobody in the administration office would know that because they're not at the planning office. So I think we should add something at the end on the I made kind of a possible application here. I think with that, we should add at the end that they have to go to the planning office and their file will get pulled and we'll make sure that they have the density, they have the parking, and they have the change, and that they know they have to get a change of use, and that Rose or Jared could just check off that they took out the file, they saw that everything was kosher. I think we should add that at the end of it.
I'm nervous about change of use. That's the only thing I'm a little nervous on putting a change of use in. I am also concerned about the wastewater. I made mention of it yesterday. I see in the back of the document, it says, section B4 on the last page. Food truck operators may not dump or otherwise dispose of gray water or any wastewater on site. Food truck operators may not dispose of gray water in town or privately owned catch basins or sewer basins. That's going to be, that's going to be a hard to enforce thing. And I think food trucks we have to figure out what the wastewater component looks like because they do use water, obviously, and they do need to pitch water. And I don't know if that should be tied to the property that they're on. So if that would be tied into Sunoco's in lieu of a change of use, have it like a subsection of, hey, if you're going to have this food truck for 30 days, you have to have this type of permit for that. Maybe not permit, but this type of fee for that 30 days to incorporate it.
So they can dump it in the town stuff?
So they could
They are
use
there.
Sunoco's water
Yeah,
in their basin.
I think that's a good idea. Where would it go?
Maybe permitting of food trucks. They need to obtain a wastewater permit, a temporary food truck. Would this incorporate, if they were to get a food truck permit, could it incorporate a wastewater permit for use on that private land or land that they're parking on?
The state of Vermont's regulation says that they can't do that at all.
Yeah.
So they can't be dumping it and they can't be using the water
So the
that
state
exists there.
supersedes anything.
The state of Vermont.
So
says
how do
can't
they
that.
do their water? They must charge some sort of permitting structure for it.
And in order to get these permits that we're requiring from the state of Vermont, they have to say that they're gonna do that with their water. They don't get the permit without.
So that's based on the health department or something?
Yeah, it's the copy of Vermont Health Department, public health permit inspection.
Scott?
That should be no difference than somebody's camper. A1, H and B, all of them have pumping stations. They can come there. They used to come and do my camper. They would come pump it. They have to show a receipt that they're pump in once a month. They have to show a receipt how big their tank is. That's all simple stuff.
And this is only a 30-day permit max that we're looking at right here. It's,
Yeah, but they can come and go 3 days at a time or, 1 day
Yeah.
at a time, but up to 30 days a year. Just to keep it from being a restaurant that competes with our brick and mortar.
yeah,
So I had one other question, Terry. Under H, other standards. Number 2, at the end of that sentence, except when operating in connection with a festival or special event approved pursuant to food trucks, must locate at least 200, and then you have 400 in parentheses.
Yeah, I really think we should switch that back to 200, because Noah pointed out that pretty much eliminates the whole commercial district to say 400 feet. But we had 2 people that had food trucks before, and now they have restaurants, and it was the eatery person, and it was the taco lady, the taco person, I wish I knew their names, I would say their names. Lauren. And they both wanted us to change that to 400, and we did. They were here, but I don't think it's realistic. I think we should go back to 200. Or whatever you guys want.
I mean, realistically, 200 to 400 feet doesn't make that much of a difference. I mean, how far is the,
We're talking feet, we're talking very little distance away.
I mean, how far right now is I'll use that time, I mean, the food truck here is probably close to 200, maybe a little bit farther.
Oh, really? Okay.
I
the
can't-
taco food truck?
From Tacos, how far is that?
Oh,
I can't-
150 feet.
It's not that far.
Yeah.
And it's measured from the door to
And the same thing,
So
Yeah, that would be that
and so
far,
the same thing
wouldn't
like
be that far.
the CC Eats food truck
Then she
to
has a
Village,
point though.
to Village Pizza.
It's like, not that.
It's 140 feet maybe. isn't it?
Yeah, because
So-
isn't the
Yeah.
lanes are 25 feet
Yeah.
each or something?
So
Where
it's
should
not
we
far.
land?
So,
She suggested 400 feet, Lauren.
But again, that.
But now nobody can be there for 30 days, and then we have all these other things now to prevent that from happening. Put her out of-
I just think that part of me thinks that the distance isn't as important as the other regulations.
And time constraints.
Let's just, realistically, what's the difference between if someone's like, well, you're 200 feet, you gotta be 4, it's like, okay, well, let's go down the road a little bit, I don't think that's as big as the other pieces of the ordinance.
Yeah, I just copied the
It
200
just
from West
doesn't, yeah,
Windsor.
it's good to have a base, so someone's not setting up
I mean
in
Shelburne.
your parking lot, but, when you start, like Scott said, you start talking feet,
Mhm.
you're not talking that much.
I am a fan of food trucks. I think it's a good asset to have in the town.
Me too.
I don't want to craft anything towards one specific thing, because if we say, there's always going to be the next one
Sure.
that we're going to look forward. It'd be nice to create a community that fosters food trucks and also protects our businesses, our brick and mortars. And striking that fine balance, I think, is pretty well achieved in this. I think it's great. There are a couple things, 200 feet. The water enforcement was one with me. But overall, it's a pretty cut and dry.
So we're superseded by the state on the water thing,
Yeah, I guess I just don't understand it. Because how would you enforce? You could say the sky's green, but if everybody knows it's blue, how are they going to enforce it at the end of the night if they're pitching the water somewhere?
The only one that's going to enforce it is the health inspector, and are they even going to see it happen? So are we,
So what do you think about feet, everybody?
I would keep it at 200 or scrub it altogether.
I'm okay with changing it, whatever you.
I don't think we should scrub a distance. You gotta,
Like keeping it-
otherwise someone could set something up in Lemire Square.
Right next to
You got pizza and you got taco and you got the,
Isn't there a food truck right by Village Pizza that's right next door to the new restaurant there?
Yeah, but he's sponsoring them.
But according to this language, there's no chance that he would be able to put that there because it's 200 feet, right?
It's like 50 feet.
But he would have to move it 200 feet outside of
I don't
his
think he also would,
property.
he wouldn't even, that one wouldn't be able to have it because of parking.
But
There's
that's
no
not the
parking there.
question too, if the business is sponsoring it.
But I don't see the caveat carved out in there. All I see
I'm just
is,
saying,
yeah,
that's a valid point.
because I have food trucks. I have food trucks at Main and Mountain sometimes.
How far,
And
you think it's
says
farther than 200
any
feet?
hotel, bed and breakfast, motel, or inn measured from the nearest edge of the property. Granted, mine would be under a special event or a festival when I would have them there. But, you know, the guy that owns the restaurant's not running special events.
Scott, did you have
I just
something?
think you're misjudging 200 feet, it's not that far. Not that far at all.
Well, that food truck is not, that's as
I don't,
close as you can
you're
get.
right, down there, do you think you could get it in this parking lot instead of 200 feet?
I think you measure from, if you actually went out and measured these, I think you'll find that 200 feet is not that far at all. And I think that food truck is 200 feet from village.
Well,
From Village, not from his
Not
own.
from his,
From his
How this is
restaurant.
I think the
written.
one sponsoring it. Are you talking about the site adjoining?
yeah.
Yeah, but there's no language in here that says owner can put food truck anywhere. It just says it has to be 200 feet away from a competing business, right?
Yeah, so you'd have to change that if a business wanted to sponsor one, right? Because that would completely eliminate all of them. Because we still have to have, I think you do need to be specific that it has to be sponsored by a landowner, obviously.
Yeah, any food trucks must be located at least 200 feet from any fixed-based food service establishment with an operating kitchen. That guy's out of code on that.
He's out of code with parking too.
Well,
He doesn't have enough parking already, and then he has,
yeah, I
I
mean,
mean, he wouldn't make it.
295 feet, the village.
How far?
it's 195 feet.
So she's
From
right, it does
here?
need to be more than 200.
Wow, that's
From
it.
here?
Taco.
From,
Close.
so from the CC's Eats from down at New England Cider Donuts, it's 195 feet from there to Village Pizza. And
Wow.
I'll tell you what this one is like.
225 for taco stock.
Is it?
There you
And
go.
it does need to be 400, or at least
Depending on
300.
if you go door to door.
She's a better estimator than I am.
Whatever footage we decide on is great. I just think that, you know, if somebody owns a business and wants to put a food truck out, I guess that should be thought of.
Mhm.
And we should either write that language in there or scrub that section.
I think specifically if they own a restaurant. But, you know, they need a change of use if they're gonna stick it in a gas station.
I'm more looking at any fixed-based food service establishment under that section.
Which section?
Wait, where is that again? I lost it.
It's section H.
Yeah.
A. 2A.
Yep, that's where,
What page you guys on?
It's
Second to
the
last.
second to last page. Near the top.
They don't serve food at Sunoco?
I don't know what basis, you know, it's like Shell. They serve
Shell
food,
has-
right? Because hamburgers and hot dogs. I don't know if the Sunoco does that. I think they do
I don't think
pre-made
they have anything
sandwiches.
made, do they?
they have pre-made, that's it.
They have
They-
for
they buy
I think
those.
it's- I think it's brought in by the
Yeah.
outside vendor.
Oh,
They
yeah.
don't cook on site.
No,
Does Shell, I mean, maybe this is
They
off
cook.
topic, but does Shell have a permit to be a restaurant? They cook on site.
They cook on site.
I would imagine so. They have a whole hood system and everything, yeah.
That's why I think they should go to the planning office, just to get a check that, yeah, you permitted to do this. If they're a restaurant, they're permitted to do it. If they're not, they're not.
Well, I think this is an important ordinance because, you know, it could get away from us. We already have 2 food trucks. There could be 10
So,
food trucks, and I think it's
should-
good, but
the
we should
distance,
have that.
so if those are both about, one's over 200 feet right now. So that is not gonna protect
The other one's
them
5 feet off.
per se. and the other one's only 5 feet short, and I would not have thought that.
Yeah, me either.
So I think if we're gonna do a distance, it should be a little more, but we could put a addendum in there that although the time frames are shorter, it's not set up for the summer in this. Like Justin was saying, if he wanted someone with a food truck sitting next to his establishment, that would be okay, except if you're 400 feet from Johnny's, from your place, that wouldn't work,
From Blue
right?
Duck, and I'm just using me as an example,
Yeah.
but I would be okay to do it because I have a special event.
For a special
Yeah.
event.
But I wouldn't be able to do it if I just said, hey, food truck XYZ, come on down
Right,
and serve your.
which would protect the other brick and mortars.
Yeah, I can speak on this just because I've had food trucks in the past. I would always go to this local surrounding business and say, hey, I'm gonna have a food truck, hope that's okay. Everybody gave me our blessing, but I think that we need an ordinance, obviously.
So wording is okay, except let's figure out a distance. Maybe it should be more than 200 feet.
Most towns do.
Mr. Bates?
Can you now separate them? You know, so I'm looking at these 1 day, 25. You have to have you're talking about 1 day events when you do one at your place.
Yeah.
1 day events probably shouldn't have to have a yardage or footage. Anything a
Right.
month over should have to comply with maybe 300.
Yeah, maybe there's a way that you could carve that into your permit issuance, duration, and fees. You could bake that into the 1 to 3 day. No,
If you have a lot of 1 day ones, and they're great.
Yeah.
It's the ones that are competing with the businesses, you know, and the other, I just want to point out, these numbers on here, these, to me, they're all low. I mean, they're paying next to nothing to run their,
Except they have to buy a license from those towns, and we don't know what that.
The Springfield one is a deal because it's only $10 for license. But the others, they have to go to the DRB, so they have to pay for the permit if they go to the DRB, and the other one, others.
We talked about this before, but this wouldn't include the farmer market people.
no,
Right.
because that's a festival or a special
That's
event.
what I mean, I want to make sure, because
Special event.
I was thinking there's some food trucks
Special
there.
event permits.
I know we talked about it last time, I just,
Go ahead.
I don't have the wording in front of me, but maybe we just say, when you do the distance, you know, it has to be X amount of feet away, comma, unless it is a special event license. And that would kind of,
Yeah, I think that language is in there because it
That's
says,
in there.
except when operating in connection with a festival or special event, approved pursuant food trucks must locate at least 200 or 400 feet away.
right,
So that means
oh, so is that,
special events or festivals do not have to have that requirement. Hear this one, Ms. Carter, 1 to 3 day permits of $100, not to exceed X amount of applications. So you either get your up to 30 day one, or you can apply for your 1 day permit X amount of times per year, per season. And that would,
Up to 30 days.
yeah, and that would, yeah.
Nobody wants to set up for 1 day unless it's a special event.
No, not too many people want to fill out permit requests
For 1 day.
every couple days
Do
either.
you think you should cap the number of permits you can have in a year? So like, for example,
10 or something.
I was gonna say 5, but something like that, so you have, so that really, if you wanna talk about really, kind of leveling, I guess, the playing field and protecting some of the brick and mortar businesses, if you were to say, you're more than welcome to do this, but you're also only, we only issue to the same company, 4 permits a year. That's a quarter of the year. That's also something to think of, or 6 half the year, and you can choose when you want to use it, but I don't know.
Yeah, we're kind of getting in the weeds here and I don't want to veer off too much.
Exactly.
But Chapacito, I think, has a network with the Sunoco owner, the corporate owner, and they have multiple food trucks. So in theory, they could say, well, Chapacito 1's going to be there for 30 days, Chapacito 2 is going to be there for 30 days, 3 will be there for 30 days. There's ways, I'm just trying to think about all the implications of this, and maybe capping it like you said, or maybe capping it like I said, is a way to safeguard from that. I don't know.
So what number did you decide on? 300, 400, 350, split the difference?
I'd split the difference, go 300
300?
for feet.
Oh, for feet? Yeah, I mean, whatever
I
the
don't
board
think you can get
decides.
400 feet away from a restaurant anywhere in the village.
That's what Noah said.
That would be really hard.
It's like banning him completely.
Jenny has something.
So maybe you've already talked about this, but the food truck that's at Sunoco, who applies for the permit?
Sunoco.
Okay, not the food truck, Sunoco.
As of right now.
So the food
This
truck
ordinance
If
would make
this
that.
ordinance would change that.
across from Village Pizza, that restaurant applied for that permit.
Donut.
Yes.
Okay.
And I think you'd have to have something still like that because,
Well, you'd have to make sure that Sunoco was okay, obviously.
yeah, so they
Having it on their
they'd
property.
have to sign off, the landowner has to sign off on it as well.
Which is in here.
Okay.
That's in there,
Um,
yeah.
And at that point, then the planning
Yeah,
department would look at that person's permit. Okay. Okay.
We wouldn't have to go through a DRB or anything. It would just, because George was saying that would take minutes.
Yeah.
I think
Go down to the planning office and see if you have your stuff in line.
we're looking for action on this tonight, I would imagine. And the village is kind of ground zero for this topic right now. I guess, does the board feel that it promotes food trucks while also helping protect the brick and mortars as written? And if it does, I think we should move on it.
I think it does. I think
I'm in agreement
Terry's
with that.
done a lot of work on it.
agreed.
I want to take all the credit. I cut and pasted a lot from Shelburne.
Thanks, Shelburne.
Shelburne, I mean,
Do you want me to have Chris Callahan take a look at it? Do you want to have a public hearing in July? You'll have Chris
Yeah.
take a look at it before then?
So we definitely want to vet it through the lawyer, and I think we definitely, is it required to have a public meeting on
We
this?
are, I looked it up.
it's an ordinance,
I looked it
yeah.
up online. We're required to have a public hearing.
So we make a motion to go forward.
With a public
Yeah.
hearing.
Yeah,
But
it's
once the
moved.
public hearing is warned, which I'll do in the next couple of days, it's in effect. It becomes in effect until it's decided upon. So it will protect the taco lane for another 150 days.
Are there any changes besides your proposed 300 feet?
I didn't see anything.
She had one that she had changed, what was it? She told us.
I had to take the no out of.
Yeah, this
Yeah,
is
that
that,
one.
just that one,
Because we do want
That
to
no.
commercial districts.
that was the only thing.
Are there any commercial districts that are in the town?
And
It ends at Coda and Coda.
is there?
Is there more commercial? I'm trying to remember the map, I'm trying to think of what it looks like.
I don't think there is. Off the top of my head.
It's what,
And how long does a commercial district go for? Is it like all the way to, the storage
Well,
place?
I guess it goes up towards Plymouth, yeah.
It does,
Yeah, so
the
it would
lakes.
affect the town, it might affect the town too, but we could get it, at least get it established in the village.
Food truck by the lake would be pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Pitch of water. For Upper Lake.
all the way out.
All the way
Never
out,
see it
okay.
if they dump it.
Just for
You'll never see it
clarification,
anyway. It's the
because
one.
I'm not understanding this. I understand that once a thing is warned, it becomes effective. But how does that affect the current permit that
It
the
does,
top?
it
It
does.
doesn't,
I don't
it
think it
doesn't,
would,
they
yeah.
still get their permit, yeah. They
They
got it
still
fair and
have it.
square, those
Right.
were our rules at the time.
So how much longer does their permit?
I'd have to look, I'm not sure.
Well, they have 150 days and they've been there,
Yeah, it's,
I don't know, 90, 100.
Wasn't it supposed to run out around the 1st of July,
I think it's more like August.
August?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd have to look though with the CC's eats down here is longer because that just started. I'm not sure what off the top of my head what the other one is. But
But
usually-
let someone put what they think.
yeah, but we'd also have to send notification to the, once, if it goes, to public hearing, once that happens, we'll have to send notification to the owners that the ordinance has changed. And so they have to look at the guidelines to reapply.
Can they jump in and get another 150-day permit before I get it warned, like tomorrow or the next day?
Probably.
Because she can get it warned online right away at the
Yeah,
jail.
I mean, I just think we also have to be careful of that. We're not doing this to target one specific place.
Yeah,
Agreed.
We're doing this for the betterment of
of course,
the
yeah.
town, and it's our due diligence to, I'll be honest, if I walk into Sunoco tomorrow and the gentleman who owns is there, I'm gonna tell him. But it's, this is better for the town, we're doing the right thing, it's not specifically because of that truck, we're not trying to say, you can't do this, and trying to sneak them by. I think that.
And it just showed us that, our permitting process is from 2008.
Yeah, and I think it was brought to our attention because of, Noah brought it up, I think last night, it's like, if it was a Thai food truck, would we be talking about this, which is probably 100% right, but that's not the point. It's the, I'm gonna call it comedic that we have a Mexican style food truck pulls in next to Tacos. And that's what it took to be like, oh, the light bulb moment when we're like, oh, maybe we should look at this. And we have, and thankfully Terry's put the time in to craft it. So I think we're in a good place, but I think.
The planning commission actually.
So, thank you all. I mean, that's, a lot of work has gone into that for us to get to this point in a short period of time.
Yeah.
Yep.
May I ask you, is it this board's desire to try to be more clear about the permits? One permit per company for that 30-day period, or one permit per food truck vendor? I don't know how that works if they have multiple trucks, for instance.
I think it's probably, I think it would be, the way I read it is like, yeah, they could be bringing in the same different trunk, but it's the same company and same property owner. That's the fight I would have with that.
Yeah.
It's
That's
like,
the-
Is that language baked
It's a
into
different
your-
truck. Well, that's semantics. It's the
And-
same company.
Yeah.
Have the lawyer look at it, because that's,
Yeah.
that's something.
But
Yeah.
Chris look at it.
He'll know
I think
what
we
to do.
should pose that question to him.
I'll make sure Chris takes a look at it.
He's really good at those little things.
I would like to make a motion to move forward with this and put it to a public hearing.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Did you want to make it a little clearer, put it for public hearing in July?
Yes, and also dependent upon review from the attorney.
But I have your permission to ask him.
Yeah, thank you.
Before I go, is there anything on the agenda, I should have looked at it, on the pedestrian safety stuff? Can we put that on next month's agenda? 'Cause
That's a good idea.
Justin did a lot of research on that.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Terry.
Thank you, Terry.
Well, thank these guys too.
Thank you, Planning Commission.
We just came to this.
We're throwing a lot of balls at you, so thank you very much.
You came through rapidly.
Review and amend employee policies list.
Yep.
We're gonna table that. I meant to say that. We're gonna push that to July, if that's all right.
Okay.
Other business?
The dates
Oh,
are on
sorry.
already. Tabled till July. Other business.
I wanted to just bring up the skate park quickly under other business. I'm looking to encumber funds for the next phase of the skate park. I don't know if that skate park budget has any village dollars reserved in it or not. We're getting those final numbers. But I'd like to pose that at our special meeting on the 16th when we have the firm numbers, and if there's anything in the village, I'd like you guys to consider voting for that.
And before you got here, Justin, Brendan was saying they got the grant for the playground.
Yes, I heard that
And
from
that was
Cherry.
great news.
That's the best news ever.
That was very good.
Dorsey is going to be a shining beacon of a community park very soon. I
That'd be very
cannot
nice.
wait.
That's great news.
Oh,
It's just
can't
great
wait.
news. There was a lot of, they worked hard.
Yeah, and it's looking beautiful down there. It needs some enhancements,
Yeah.
some updates. So I'm very thrilled about that.
Municipal manager updates.
Yeah, so just kind of to piggyback on that piece, playground grant is secured, which is fantastic. Nick and I have been working on spending, how to disperse the ARPA funds that were put towards the
Dorsey Park.
Dorsey Park. So the tennis courts are being done, resurfacing, which is great. We are looking at replacing that blue netting that is up above the parking lot, which basically protects the balls from going in the river. It just looks kind of shoddy.
I helped him
Yeah.
piece that together
Yeah.
more than once.
Yeah, so we found some, so we'll cover just, uniformed net. The other piece is we are gonna put out for RFP to replace and reconstruct the press box at the soccer field. Now there's just the little platform that's there. It's basically falling over. The Green Mountain Booster Club has offered to donate some funds as well towards it because, it's used during the Josh Cole tournament and the girls' invitational, so having a press box there with storage underneath it is important. Also looking at redoing and probably replacing the walkway, that concrete walkway that goes from the building, the concession stand, along towards the tennis courts is very uneven, it's cracking. We figure we have $95,000 to put towards this renovations there, and we can probably get it done very easily for that. So, and some more signage. Excuse me.
Did you want to speak about the setbacks and the lot sizes
Probably in July.
in July?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's Dorsey. Memorial Day here in town was a huge success, as it always is. Everything went off beautifully. It was well attended. So a big thanks to Post 36, Ludlow PD, the cemetery department, Ludlow Fire, and Ludlow Ambulance. Everybody participated in that, but it's always a very moving ceremony.
What happened to the giant flag? They used to put the giant flag up on Memorial Day
I'm not sure where they put it.
in the Baptist church. It was
I know
beautiful.
sometimes they.
It was a town that did it.
I know sometimes they've hung it from the ladder truck, but that wasn't.
It was actually, there was actually wiring across. I wonder if anybody remembers that. It was really beautiful. I don't know if we all did.
I'll have to ask. The two other things, so paving project obviously is wreaking havoc on the village right now. When we left last night, I felt like I was in Boston. The lights and everything going on, I'm like, what is going on now? I could have driven around, but I was too nosy. I wanted to go look at all the equipment like a 10-year-old.
You have another leak in front of Billy Davis's old house?
Yes.
Down by Mill Street.
We've had
Over on Andover and Buzzard,
so we have
Mill Street. No.
Oh, that's Main Street.
leaks, one at the top of Middle Street. We are also, that's a valve we're gonna replace. We're also replacing a valve in front of the library, which is leaking. Yesterday, we replaced a corporation in front of the Potbelly that we thought was leaking, and when we got down to it, it was, but it was literally a 15-cent plastic gasket that was broken and leaking. So kind of doing things, we do have probably a running pool to see which is the first spot of new pavement we're gonna dig up, so if anybody wants to get in.
And I thought you guys were actually putting in that line down there to Potbelly, so we don't have to dig that up.
Now that's kind of gone mum.
Yeah, you talked about that before.
So,
Well, the good news is half of them on Main Street have already exploded.
yeah, right, so in the 2 years I've been here, we've replaced half. So, but, the project, they're moving along pretty well at this point. We had the other spot down in front of the high school that has been that sinkhole, but at this point it appeared to be nothing we could really find, which is odd, but so found it up, didn't find a line, buried it back. So state paid for it, which was good on our end. And I did today, I told the select board last night, today had the first meeting on the Jewel Brook Dam project. Site 1 is at 30% engineering completion, which doesn't sound like a lot, but that's actually a pretty significant step in that process. They're doing, site 1 and 2 together, then they'll do site 3 and then site 5. So we have the 30% completion, then it goes to 60, probably by July.
Wow.
So in 90 by the end of the year, it takes a year for permitting. So construction on sites 1 and 2, probably by 2027. And then,
That's a great timeline.
yeah, and then sites 3 and 5, 2028 is what we're looking at.
That's
So,
great.
That's a massive project with a lot of, but we are in a very, very good place in terms of, where I look at where we were when I started 2 years ago, and it was, almost a catastrophe of where we were going to go, and it hadn't even started. But thanks to some of the guys at Du Bois and King and the USDA, that we've really pushed some of this through, and financially are getting through it. So
Can we build a 4th dam somewhere so that we have fun?
so we have.
Yeah,
I
there's a- there's
wanted to
never
put
fun.
I tell
There's
people
never
the
been
one
fun.
out on that bridge is for just it's out there somewhere.
We're grown up, we used to say
Yeah.
that.
So
There's no fourth.
that's all I got.
Thank you.
All right, set date for next meeting, July 1,
Works for me.
2025.
June 16th meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, next village trustee only meeting is good on July 1st though.
Yeah. Okay, and we've signed warrant orders
I
today.
didn't sign it, but I'll come in and sign them.
And, yeah, because they were looking for some signatures.
Yeah, I didn't get why, I did that last week, but
Yeah.
that's coming this week.
All right. Anyone need an executive session for anything?
No, sir.
We're all good. Okay. We need a motion.
I will make that motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye. Thank you.